Right as I'm recording this, $1.8 trillion in commercial real estate loans are sitting on a timer set to explode in 2026. AI just crossed the threshold where it can replace 50% of entry-level white-collar jobs. 72 countries representing 98% of global GDP have central bank digital currencies in active pilot programs, ready to flip the switch the moment crisis hits. This isn't another recession where markets dip and recover. This is multiple catastrophic systems colliding at once. And by the time CNN runs the special about it, your window to prepare will be closed. I'm not talking about inflation numbers or stock corrections. I'm talking about the year when unemployed office workers can't pay mortgages on buildings nobody wants to rent, when banks can't extend loans anymore because the math doesn't work, and when the infrastructure for programmable money is already built and waiting for the crisis that justifies turning it on. These aren't isolated problems, they're gears in the same machine. And when they lock up simultaneously, you don't get a slowdown, you get a freeze. But if you understand what's actually happening right now, you still have months to position outside the blast radius. Let me tell you exactly what's coming and why almost nobody is positioned correctly for it. We're in what I call the buffer zone right now. That period where everything appears manageable, where problems seem contained, where your financial advisor tells you markets always recover and you should stay the course. That assumption will destroy more wealth than 2008. Here's the mechanism. Commercial real estate borrowers took out loans when interest rates were under 4%. Those loans are maturing in 2026. When they try to refinance, they're facing rates near 6.5%. That's not a small adjustment. That's a 75 to 100% jump in debt service payments. Think about what that means. A property owner with a $10 million loan was paying maybe $350,000 in annual interest. Now they're looking at $650,000. Same building, same tenants, same income, double the debt cost. The math doesn't work. Banks know this. That's why they've been playing extend and pretend, giving short-term extensions to avoid taking properties back. But those extensions run out in 2026. Reality hits balance sheets. And when approximately 10% of those maturing mortgages are office properties that lost permanent demand from remote work, you're watching values collapse in real time. Does this sound like a problem that fixes itself? Transaction activity is expected to stay flat through 2026 and 2027. That's 2 full years of frozen markets while distressed assets pile up. The banks holding those loans? They're your banks. The ones with your deposits. Now layer in what's happening to employment because this is where it gets lethal. Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic building, the AI that's replacing workers right now, warned that artificial intelligence could eliminate 50% of all entry-level white-collar jobs within the next 5 years. That timeline isn't theoretical anymore. By 2027, AI automation hits critical mass in finance, healthcare administration, and manufacturing. These aren't factory jobs. These are the careers 22-year-olds used to build middle-class lives from. Junior analysts, associates, coordinators, the entry points that created stability, they're disappearing, and unemployment could hit 10 to 20% when it accelerates. So ask yourself this: who's paying those commercial real estate mortgages when office buildings are empty and unemployment is spiking? Who's filling apartments when layoffs hit? The feedback loop becomes self-reinforcing. Real estate crashes, banks lose capital, lending tightens, unemployment rises, consumption drops, and the entire system contracts faster than policy can respond. And here's what makes 2026 different from every crisis before it. The control infrastructure is already built. 72 countries are in advanced CBDC phases right now. 49 active pilot programs around the world. The UAE's digital dirham launches late 2026. China's digital yuan just hit 7 trillion in transaction volume. Hong Kong's preparatory work completes first half of 2026. You think that timing is coincidental? CBDCs don't launch during prosperity. They launch during crisis, when populations accept control mechanisms they'd normally reject. When 2026 hits and traditional banking shows cracks, The infrastructure for programmable money with geographic restrictions, transaction limits, and expiration dates will already be operational. They'll present it as the solution: modernization, efficiency, inclusion, and millions will accept it because they won't understand what they're giving up until it's too late. Everyone's preparing wrong. They're stocking gold coins and canned food like it's 2008 version 2. But 2026 isn't 2008. It's fundamentally different in ways that make traditional preparation strategies obsolete. In 2008, the crisis crushed working-class homeowners, but left white-collar workers mostly intact. 2026 inverts that. It targets degree holders and office workers while trade skills stay in demand. Computer science graduates now face 6.1% unemployment, nearly double philosophy majors. Think about that. The safe careers aren't safe anymore. In 2008, the crisis unfolded over 18 months. You had time to react. AI's employment destruction could happen almost overnight. There's a threshold where adoption becomes economically irresistible and entire departments disappear in quarterly earnings calls. No slow warning, just gone. And in 2008, governments improvised responses. In 2026, the response is pre-built. Digital payment systems tested, CBDC pilots refined, ready to activate the moment traditional systems show stress. They're not guessing, they're executing a playbook. So what does intelligent preparation actually look like when you understand these differences? Let me give you strategies that operate at a level most people never reach. First, create offline redundancy for your critical digital life. 10% of everything that makes you function needs to exist completely outside connected systems. Crypto wallet keys, banking information, identity documents, business contracts, client lists. When systems glitch or access gets restricted, that USB drive becomes more valuable than your brokerage account you can't log into. Second, build jurisdictional optionality without needing a passport collection. You don't need dual citizenship. Start by establishing a legitimate second financial address in a different regulatory jurisdiction. Could be a business mailbox in a strategic location or a digital nomad structure. The goal is options when movement gets restricted. Third, develop what I call the anti-fragile income stack. 3 income sources where one survives lockdowns, one scales during crisis, and one operates globally. Most people build wealth assuming normalcy. You need to build assuming interruption. Physical skills that can't be automated, digital products that scale with chaos, expertise that becomes more valuable when systems break. Fourth, cultivate crisis-capable networks. Not just contacts, allies. The new elite won't be defined by who has money, because money's accessibility becomes questionable when systems freeze. It's who has resilient circles with diverse capabilities and actual backbone. Most people collect LinkedIn connections. You need people with skills, independent thinking, and nerve. Fifth, establish data sanctuaries outside mainstream infrastructure. We're entering surveillance finance where every transaction carries metadata. Use decentralized storage for sensitive files, encrypted vaults for asset documentation, split presence across platforms. When financial access becomes conditional, having assets the system doesn't see becomes strategic. Sixth, develop attention autonomy as an actual discipline. In every historical collapse, people who maintained clear thinking while others panicked made asymmetrically better decisions. Start practicing digital detox not as wellness but as preparation. Your mental sovereignty is defensive infrastructure. And yes, obviously hold gold, silver, Bitcoin, rotating cash between banks. But if that's all you know, you're playing the basic prepper game while others are operating 3 levels deeper. You didn't come here for chapter 1. You came here for what they skip. Let me show you what people with real information are actually doing, because their behavior reveals expectations better than any forecast. They're implementing crisis migration playbooks around tax optimization, moving domicile and structures before transition makes it expensive or impossible. They're acquiring positions in utility infrastructure, water rights attached to agricultural land specifically, because resource access becomes real currency when financial systems are questionable. They're buying strategic debt right now. before inflation potentially makes it nearly free to repay in devalued currency. Some are running personal AI models on privately hosted GPUs instead of cloud services, maintaining technological capability that doesn't depend on platforms that can be restricted. The Abu Dhabi Investment Authority tripled their Bitcoin position, not reduced. Tripled. MicroStrategy keeps buying every dip. These aren't retail panic sellers. These are the people who move markets. And they're loading up while everyone else runs. They're not hoarding cash. They're positioning for control of essential systems, energy independence, water security, food production capacity, mobility options. While middle-class investors are reading recession hedge articles, people with actual wealth are building exit infrastructure. They understand 2026 isn't about protecting portfolio value. It's about maintaining autonomy when systems that enabled freedom get replaced by systems that enable control. Does this sound extreme? During the Great Depression, urban families eating macaroni and splitting one meatball between 8 people had headaches from hunger. Meanwhile, Helen Bolton worked a Nebraska farm and said her daughter never went hungry because they had canned meat, chickens, milk, homemade bread. The difference wasn't location, it was self-reliance versus system dependence. Fast forward to 2008. The most common survival tactic was avoiding the job market entirely. Millennials flooded graduate schools, waiting out the storm while racking up debt they're still paying. That only worked because the system still functioned, student loans existed, schools were open, infrastructure held. What happens when those safety valves don't exist? When the reset comes and traditional options aren't available? You better have built something outside the system. You don't need $100 million to play this intelligently. You need to stop thinking like a consumer in a declining system and start thinking like a sovereign builder. First, recognize this is system positioning, not market timing. You're not predicting the exact week everything breaks. You're building infrastructure that makes you resilient regardless of timing. Hard to cancel, hard to censor, hard to collapse. Second, stack defenses in layers. Digital sovereignty plus physical resilience, local networks plus global mobility, traditional assets plus alternative stores of value, skills that can't be automated plus systems that scale. No single point of failure. Third, learn to read crisis patterns and move before media creates competition. By the time CNN runs the special, easy positioning is gone and the crowd is there. Watch what sovereign wealth funds do, not what retail investors get told to do. Assets that protect you share 3 characteristics: intrinsic value independent of government decree, limited supply, difficult to confiscate or devalue directly. Bitcoin supply is capped at 21 million mathematically. Gold increases 1 to 2% annually through mining. Productive real estate generates income. Shares in businesses that control real assets. These aren't speculative plays. They're defensive positions. When monetary supply expands faster than economic output, nominal prices rise. You want to own the things rising in price, not the currency declining in value. Emergency funds belong in high-yield savings. Beyond that, cash is a wasting asset. If you're in bonds, understand you're lending money that gets repaid in devalued currency. That's guaranteed loss if inflation exceeds yield. The window to establish these positions is narrowing faster than most people realize. Not because opportunity disappears, but because infrastructure for restriction is completing. Every quarter brings more CBDC pilots, more beneficial ownership registries, more transaction reporting, more tax sharing agreements. Each one narrows options. The commercial real estate debt bomb is real and quantified. The white-collar employment crisis is acknowledged by people building the AI causing it. The digital currency infrastructure is operational and waiting for crisis that justifies deployment. These aren't conspiracy theories. They're documented systems you can verify independently. What separates winners from casualties isn't intelligence or resources. It's willingness to act on uncomfortable information while everyone else assumes things will work out. The ability to move differently when the crowd follows paths leading into the convergence. You have months left, not years, months. Use them to build systems that make you impossible to fully control and positioned outside mechanisms that will crush everyone who stayed inside legacy structures assuming protection that isn't coming. The financial reset isn't conspiracy. It's documented policy being implemented by central banks right now. Your government won't warn you that savings will be inflated away. They'll present everything as modernization, efficiency, inclusion. Millions will be caught holding cash and bonds when the reset accelerates. They'll watch purchasing power evaporate and wonder how it happened. Don't be them. Position yourself on the side of assets that rise as currency debases. Build multiple income streams. Create geographic diversification. The reset will crush millions. But those who understand what's happening won't just survive. They'll thrive. The wealthy prepared years ago. You're seeing it now. That's your advantage. You still have time, but the window is measured in months, not years. Not when CBDCs launch and controls activate. By then you're trapped. While transition is happening but not complete, that's when you move. Now. Subscribe, because next week I'm breaking down the 3 types of wealth governments can't seize during financial collapse and exactly how to build them from zero. This isn't entertainment, this is preparation. Make the choice. See you in the next one.